Welcome back to Touhou, where we talk about the lore and other details of different Touhou characters as I bring this series back from the dead. For how long? Who knows? Today we have Hinanawi Tenshi, and let me tell you, it's kind of inexcusable that my favorite character, the main inspiration for both my name and avatar, has barely gotten a mention in this channel. So let's fix that now. By the way, all the footage you'll see from the fighting games was recorded by Tosi, known mystic connoisseur, who offered to do so because I don't like playing those games and I'm bad at them. So a big special thanks to them for their efforts. Tenshi is a celestial living in heaven, a realm far above Gensokyo, said to be reachable by scaling beyond the summit of Yokai-man. It's very loosely based on different Buddhist concepts of what one would consider a sort of heavenly realm. Bavagra, known as Uchoten in Japanese, is the word that often comes up in Touhou in reference to this heaven. From my understanding, in Buddhism it refers to the summit of existence in the formless realm, the sphere of neither thought nor no thought, perception nor non-perception. In Touhou though, it is pretty much the highest realm that one can achieve within the cycle of death and rebirth, either by reaching immortality through extensive hermit training, or by attaining enlightenment and reaching nirvana after death. Tenshi, on the other hand, got there with the secret third option, being a Nepo baby. As per her profile, the Hinanawi clan was a family of priests who served the Nine Okami by assisting them in the control of earthquakes, and for doing so, they were rewarded with ascension to the heavens. This included their daughter Chiko, who promptly changed her name to Tenshi upon becoming a celestial, and she quickly realized the whole thing kinda sucks, prompting the incident in Scarlet Weather Rhapsody where she becomes interested in the surface residents and tries to get their attention. Celestials were actually first mentioned in Perfect Memento in strict sense, about 2 years before Tenshi's debut in Scarlet Weather Rhapsody, which could have been foreshadowing for what was to come. That said, she remains the only named celestial we know of, probably because most of them do actually stay in heaven and, well, there hasn't been any reason to go back there as of late. There might also be some ties between celestials and Lunarians, not as in they are related, but similar rather, though this hasn't really been expanded upon outside of comments by Sun. The name Tenshi literally means child of heaven, and it's also a homophone of the word for angel that uses a different kanji, and it all has to be intentional since her previous name uses the same kanji for child but with the co-reading instead of she. Incidentally, Chiko means child of earth. Around the time of the release of the game Scarlet Weather Rhapsody, fans misread her name as Tenko, which went on to become somewhat of a nickname for her as well. And through that you also know where mine comes from. The jig is up. Yes, I just stole it and changed a letter, what of it. It used to be Tenko with 2 Ks if you were here a few years ago. Her family name is slightly more complicated. Hina can be a few things. There's the deity Hinatori no Mikoto, whose name is written with the same kanji, though other than that there doesn't seem to be any further connections. Hina, under a different kanji, can also mean young chick or just small. So it's probably a combination of both these things. Nai, on the other hand, is simply an archaic word for earthquake. Nai, and by extension Hinanai, contains the kana wi, which is not used anymore in current Japanese and is simply pronounced as I when encountered. Actually, if you wanted to type the name, you have to use I, as wi is just not recognized. And in some romanizations, it is just written as I as well. There is one other character with a name that also uses this archaic kana, Tei, and in both cases it can add another layer to them, or for Tenshi her lineage rather, as being so old that the proper way to write down the name has been forgotten. Manipulation of earth is Tenshi's main ability, presumably being a power inherent to her family as well. The most common use of this is causing small localized earthquakes, which she can also do through the use of keystones, rocks that can invoke and suppress earthquakes that can only be used by the Hinanai, though she mainly opts to use them as, an actual weapon, just literally bashing heads in or throwing the fucking things. Tenshi also possesses the sword of Hiso. According to her profile, it identifies her opponent's spirit or ki, which then turns into a form anyone can see, that being a specific weather. In fact, every character in Scarlet Weather Rhapsody has a specific weather effect associated with them. For completion's sake, Tenshi's corresponding weather in that game is Aurora, like Aurora Borealis, and it randomly takes on the effect of any other weather, which is fitting seeing as she holds some control over that. In addition, her urban legend in Antinomia Common Flowers is HARP, in reference to the high-frequency active auroral research program that has been the target of conspiracy theories about how its true goal was to manipulate the weather. Anyways, after manifesting the opponent's ki, the sword can take on an appropriate form to exploit their weakness and counter it. It's a shape-shifting spirit blade that changes its form to adapt to someone's weakness. How is that not the coolest shit ever? Being a celestial also earns her some additional perks. Their bodies are said to be poisonous to yokai, so most will often avoid attacking them outright, and since their diet mainly consists of the peaches found in heaven, which are said to strengthen the body of whoever eats them, on top of everything else, Tenshi can also be assumed to be extremely tough and resilient. Now, do not mistake this for power scaling, that's not a very useful discussion to have. As much as she is pushed, if Tenshi needs to get beat up by someone, she will be. But I think it's only appropriate that the only Celestial we know of is capable of so much, while at the same time being the worst possible example of one to bring in that good old Touhou irony. What I mean is, Tenshi is as dense as the very earth she holds power over. She's called a delinquent Celestial or fallen Celestial, someone who wants to wholly enjoy the perks that come with being one and relishes in her status, but is not content with being stuck in a monotone way of life, having to follow the rules and mannerisms, and in fact, often yearns for the freedom other beings have, the more lively and varied occurrences down on the surface. That is the whole reason for the incident in Scarlet Weather Rhapsody, the earthquake that destroyed the Hakurei Shrine being nothing more than a way to announce herself. Basically the same as shouting, "Hey, look at me, come here and fight me, I am so bored." Tenshi has also displayed some degree of ambition, or maybe a better way to put it would be trying to run with anything she can get away with. In Scarlet Weather Rhapsody again, she helps rebuild the Hakurei Shrine, of course with the ulterior motive of making it another home for herself, prompting Yukari of all people to smack some sense into her. And this is kinda where that whole rivalry you see in fanwork sometimes comes from. You don't say that much anymore, but it is because of Yukari's general disdain for Celestials. She doesn't do much herself in Antinomia Common Flowers, aside from going around causing trouble with Shin Myomaru, and being confirmed to be a short queen, which I can relate to. Jon and Shion, on the other hand, later face off against Tenshi's dream self. Now, dream selves are meant to embody someone's true feelings and exaggerate their worst traits. So what's the dream self of someone who has pretty much nothing but bad traits? Well, an absolute menace of a cartoon villain that wants to remake the entire world to their liking and does in fact have the power to do so, of course. Aside from the fighting games, Tenshi has made minor appearances in other spin-off games as well. She has an article in Symposium of Post-Mysticism about how she was going around manifesting people's personalities as weather, and it also has the best official art of her. This is someone who is up to no good. There's a small essay written in character in Alternative Facts in Eastern Utopia where Tenshi talks about her distaste for the heavenly peaches she's made to eat and how she would greatly enjoy having more varied cuisine. In Whispered Oracle of Hakurei Shrine, she's given very great fortune, and what's funny to me is that one of her recommended work areas is being a YouTuber or streamer, not only because it makes no sense in the context of Touhou, but also maybe there is no such thing as a coincidence. Wild and Horned Hermit, however, is definitely her most prominent appearance outside of the games, where she's shown to be so overly confident that no one can stand being around her. Except for Shion, since Tenshi's natural good luck cancels out her own misfortune. You know what, it kinda reminds me of Excalibur from Soul Eater, remember that? We learned that she had been temporarily banished from heaven for casually stealing and eating an elixir being prepared for an event, though she seems less insulted about the humiliation and more so from the fact that they dared to kick her out. Hijinks aside, she does play a somewhat relevant role in the manga's closing chapters, where she is shown to also be able to break through hermit seals and activate magic circles. So you know, add that to the list. Also here it's said that she's a natural born celestial, which I hope that they didn't just throw out that whole backstory from earlier out the window. Sun has remarked a few times on how Tenshi acts very human-like for a celestial, perhaps for the wrong reasons. I think her character is very eloquently summarized in her stage in Scarlet Weather Rhapsody. Daughter of Heaven, Goddess of Land, Heart of Human. She is very much the smug and immature kid, but I think what really defines Tenshi in the end is her opposition to the mundane lifestyle and the strict set of rules imposed upon her, and her never-ending yearning for freedom, with a curiosity that drives her to wanna see what the rest of the world has to offer. It's something that I think most of us have felt at some point, this latent idea we often have to renounce to in our daily lives, but that nonetheless remains in some form. And that is why Tenshi remains my favorite Touhou character to this day. And also, she is literally cute, look at her. Thanks for watching, remember to like, subscribe and comment, and do stop by my stream sometime. I'll see you in the next one.